Now back in Nigeria, the landscape of African storytelling is shifting with the proliferation of artificial intelligence. While some have seen this as a democratization of storytelling, others have seen this as a rude incursion into the space of creators, most especially animators. One of the people in the eye of the storm is Damilola Solesi, the CEO and creative director of Smith Animation Studios. In a recent conversation with Entertainment News on Channels Television, I asked her how much of a threat is AI to her works as an animator, and she offered a grounded, refreshing perspective. Rather than viewing generative tech as an existential threat to her profession, she classifies it as a welcome evolution in an animator's toolkit.
AI is interesting, and definitely any form of technology comes with its pros and its cons, and we're observing, and we're seeing how we can come into play. I think for me, and when it comes to AI, I'm always particular about ensuring that artists are first, and we ensure that we give artists the tool to be able to create what they truly create, because creativity comes from within. So how can we have the tools to be able to create? And I believe that yes, we started with generative AI, and it's great, and that is growing, but I feel like the next generation of AI tools that will be coming into this space now will be tools that can aid animation faster. So we talked about some of the challenges, infrastructural challenges, speed challenges, and the like. So how do we make our work faster? How do we give tools for the artists to be able to create their work faster? And I believe that AI and technology as a whole is coming to make a change. So we're excited for the next 5 years of the space.
However, efficiency alone cannot solve the structural hurdles facing homegrown animation. Solesi admitted that the current state of the profession remains incredibly capital intensive, from high-end rendering hardware and constant power generation to the massive labor cost of specialized local talent. Building a studio requires deep pockets. According to her, the industry has outgrown the phase of passion projects. It now requires concerted efforts, including institutional funding, strategic corporate sponsorship, and deliberate governmental policy support to scale properly and achieve global competitiveness.
The animation industry is still a growing sector. Our studio Smith Animation is 15 years, but I still say it's still day one. There's a lot of things we need to do to ensure that the industry grows infrastructure-wise, because as you said, animation is intensive, it's capital intensive, it's also people, manpower intensive, but there's opportunities, and those opportunities lie in the stories that we have, in the stories that we need to tell, and we have so many of them, of our folk tales, of our historical stories that will play well, to animation and that genre specifically, and even beyond animation, VFX as well too. So the industry is growing. There's talent coming into the space. We have a team now of 20 people at the studio. So the industry is now coming to its own. Now we require, an ecosystem that understands and communicates to each other better, so that we're putting together the private sector, the public sector, and everybody coming together. And platforms like Utopia is also one of the ways that you can start.
Perhaps our most passionate point was saved for the systemic drought of localized children's programming in Nigeria's mainstream media. Solesi lamented that the current media diet of Nigerian children is dominated almost entirely by foreign content, which is a far cry from what it used to be.
Okay, I think the children's media space has been neglected for many years and overlooked for many years, and it wasn't really like that, because I remember growing up, we had stories like Tales by Moonlight and the likes that we watched after school, and quite a number of shows like that we watched. But over the years, that's just completely gone quiet. And I think many factors came into play to make that happen. But I think there's a new generation of creators who are saying, we want to tell stories for our children, not just children here in Nigeria, but across the continent. We have over 1 billion kids under the age of 18. So how do we create content for those children? And that's what I always say, how do we create for the next 1 billion? That's always my mantra and goal. So it's starting small. We know that the models haven't been proven, how the value chain needs to also be discussed and the likes, but there is a market. There are kids who are hungry and willing to hear our stories, and those stories need to be shared. Definitely need to focus on local content for children. We need to also focus on content specifically for children, songs that are specific for them, films that are specific for them, because it aids their development, it aids their growth. So definitely every single thing that we can do, both on the government side and on the private sector side as well, to ensure that these children are catered for and not ignored any longer, is very crucial and very needed.